Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The introduction piece was amazing. The my favorite one was last minute replacement. That went down in my book here. I need a small place to hold my notes. Thank you. So I have two goals this morning. One is not to lose my voice because I'm trying to, and the other is to make sure that I hit all of the notes that Michelle told me I had to. So that's my goal. So I wrote a couple of little notes here for myself, and as you get older, I'm sure this only applies to me, the notes have gotten bigger. So there are really not that many on here. I just had to write them so I could see them. So let me give you a little bit of background, first of all, about myself. When I started with Walmart, when I was in college, I went and applied for a position at Walmart, and I thought it was going to be a summer job. And here I am 24 years later, I'm still with Walmart, and it's more than a summer job or a really long summer job. So with Walmart, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of things. And from that, I went into the store operations piece. And then from store operations, I went into what we call store planning, which is the group of our company that goes out and actually builds and puts out all those buildings that you see everywhere in the country, from expansions, remodels, and et cetera. Then after a term with that, I then got the opportunity to go into training and development at the home office, and I was responsible for the front-end offices and receiving and the training for the U.S. After that opportunity, I got asked to go over to what we call the Global Indirect Sourcing Team, which is the fixture and equipment team for the U.S., and I also had the opportunity to be the apparel buyer for all fixtures and to do hangers for the U.S. And hangers, in case you've never purchased hangers for 13 countries, that gets interesting. Just going to say that, okay? So once I did that for a while, then I had the opportunities. The operations team at the home office was putting together a new team. And they asked me if I would come over with my background from operations, store planning, and with buying and negotiation and purchasing and all of that. Would I come over and start or help with this team? And so I said yes. So I came over about 4 years ago, and at that time, I was a team of one. And I had all of those responsibilities, which if you know much about Walmart, and there's some of my colleagues here today so they can confirm this, when sustainability come along, it didn't come to us by saying, we're going to take all your responsibilities off your plate and you go do sustainability. It came as, you need to add this to your responsibility. So my colleagues are all confirming with their head nods here. So with that, I was going down the path of taking care of those responsibilities. One day, my boss at that time called me into the office and said, hey, just add one more thing to your to-do list. And I said, okay. And he said, could you figure out how to take the stores, clubs, and DCs to zero waste? And I said, okay. And I had no background in sustainability, so I had no idea where to begin. So what I did is I went back to my office and I began with what we call a roadmap to zero waste. And that's become kind of my game plan, if you will. And it's what I followed and what I have introduced into the company as well. So with that roadmap, I had to go figure out, first of all, what is our trash and why are we generating trash? And so if you began down this journey with me, my first thought was, is it going to take rocket science? Is it going to take chemical engineers? Is it going to take, what level set of knowledge is it going to take to accomplish this in Walmart? And what we realized once we got into this was it's really a lot of process changes that if we just chose to do something different or gave our associates the option to do it differently, we can then change the world. And so with that, we began in, see, the goal is not to lose my voice. If I do, Devin, you're my backup plan. And just so you know, Devin, 2 weeks with Walmart is a lifetime. Okay, so Devin's my backup plan if my voice goes here. But with that, we went down to Fort Smith, Arkansas, which most of you, I think, are from this area, so you know that Fort Smith's about an hour down the road south. If I'm driving, it's about 45 minutes. But with that, we went to Fort Smith, and we started out down there with a lot of different units. And what I mean by units is we chose some super centers, a neighborhood market, and a Sam's Club. And we went in there and we literally started dealing with all of the stuff that's going into the compactors. Because at a Walmart or a Sam's Club, if it goes into the compactor, it goes to the landfill. So what we're trying to do is create exit strategies for everything in our building that it no longer goes there, but it has another place to go. Other than the landfill is our goal. So with that, we began to figure out simple things, like for example, and I used this example yesterday for those of you who met with me, so I apologize to be redundant, but this was the example I was going to use today anyway. But one of the things we realized is we have what we call in Walmart a rocket cart. And this rocket cart is just a simple kind of a square piece of equipment with wheels that allows our associates to take freight to the floor. It allows our customers to go up and down the aisles without it being a big pallet. And with that, we realized that when the associate was stocking, they would take the materials after stocking, plastic, et cetera, and they would put it into the trash can out on the sales floor. And that trash can, of course, ends up into our compactor. So what we realized is if we just changed a few things operationally, which my real job allows me to do that, if we change those things operationally, instead of going to the landfill through the compactor, it could go into our recyclables, which is what we want it to do. So we changed a simple thing. On their standard operating procedures for stocking, we asked them to add a plastic trash bag to their rocket cart. So as they did their stocking, it went into that. That went into our super sandwich bells, which most of you have heard about. And then, of course, the super sandwich bells go to recycling. So simple things like that is what we realized as we built this program. We then went from Fort Smith after we took all of those learnings, and we went down into the state of California. And if you've worked in the state of California, you know why we chose California first. I wanted to make sure that everything we were trying to do, we did correctly. And if you can get past all the environmental things in California, you're pretty good to make sure that you've covered and crossed all your T's and I's, if you will. So we went to California, and there we tried a couple of things we'd never tried before. One thing I tried is we took, instead of creating super sandwich bells in one super center, we actually put it into our compactor and created kind of our mini Dirty Murph, if you will. And then that was sent over to our suppliers, and they, of course, sorted it and did all of that. At the time, that was not real cost effective for us, so that was a test. The other thing we tested in California, and Michelle, you know this, so don't come up here yet. The other thing we tested in California in 2 stores was we did test incineration. And the reason we wanted to test that was, 1, we wanted to see what that looked like, and 2, we wanted to see what was the end result of it. Because one of the things in my position that I still feel very adamant about is that irregardless of what we do as Walmart, it's still our responsibility at end of product. So if we were to incinerate, then what is created from that, the ash, the tar, whatever the process may be, that is still our responsibility to ensure that it doesn't go to a landfill, but that it has another purpose. And so with that, that was a great learning. 1, we learned it was very expensive. 2, we learned that that's not the direction we corporately wanted to go. And so those tests, though, helped us create what we call today the landfill waste reduction program or playbook in Walmart terms. So with that, we started on the West Coast and we rolled it across to the East Coast. I will tell you that as of July, we finished that rollout. In the landfill waste reduction program, what that entails is that we refocused the execution part for operations on the OCC, which is cardboard, the SSB, which is our recycling, which most of you know about. Today we have a little over 32 items that we can put in there that go back to recycling. We also then created what we call the connection with our Feeding America partners. As of this week, I'm happy to announce that we're at 173 million pounds donated to Feeding America across the U.S. that would have went to the landfill that is going today to feed people instead of going to the garbage. Our goal this year, trending toward a little over 200 million pounds. And that, of course, is with the help of our partners at Sam's and the DCs as well. So with that, we also added an organics program. And I'm so thrilled my voice is holding. With that, we also added the organics program. And with that program, our purpose was to follow the hierarchy that the EPA has established. And that, of course, is to reduce first. Secondly is to feed people, which we're doing with Feeding America. Thirdly is to feed animals. Today, we're about 300 partnerships with animal rescue units. In a lot of the states that I have organic solutions for today, we're doing feeding stock, feeding things like that with connections with the farmers, dairies, et cetera. And then we're looking at energy solutions. And this is a place today that if you're asking, where is Walmart going and what is Walmart thinking? Here's what I'm thinking. So I'm thinking energy, and I'm thinking, how do we take our waste, organics as in particular, and how do I take that and make it something of purpose other than going to the landfill, because that's no longer an option for us. And so we're looking at anaerobic digestion. We've looked at lots of technologies. I talked to several people yesterday. Michelle was in my office as well. We talked about gasification, different things like that. So we are open to those conversations. If you have not had them with us, this is an open invitation to come speak to us. So with that, and then the last thing on the EPA hierarchy, of course, is composting. So you'll find in all of our stores, Now, when I say stores, I'm talking about supercenters, neighborhood markets, and Sam's, because they're the ones who create organic waste. The Division 1 stores, which is what we consider a small general store, if you will, those don't have that much food product in them. They have some canned goods, but not a lot. So today, it's not cost effective today for the food banks to go in and collect those little, like, 1 or 2 cans. And it's not cost effective today to have an organics program at those sites because we don't generate enough to justify that today. I am testing in Orange County, California, about 12 Division 1 stores where we are having Feeding America pick it up in the network, and that seems to be working out pretty well. We're also testing that in Hawaii to see if we can get the food there in Hawaii to a food bank versus to the landfill. So there are opportunities where that makes sense, and where they make sense, we're definitely going to fill that in there. The great thing about the program we've created is that I have total flexibility. So today, if the right decision is to go composting, for example, in the state of Arkansas, composting is pretty much my option. If in 6 months to a year, the option changes or a better option comes along that's the right thing to do for Walmart and for the environment, then we have the option and the ability and the flexibility to change that. So that's the great thing about the program we've created. We didn't lock ourselves into any solution today. Because as we all know in sustainability, 6 months doesn't look the same as today does. And so we wanted to make sure we had the flexibility to do that. So that's kind of my background and kind of where we are today. The other question that Michelle asked me to cover today is, why are we successful? The reason we've been successful so far, once again, my background was not in sustainability when I was given this one thing to go do. I'm just going to go back and say I think it added up to a whole lot more than one thing, but I'll go there. But because my background and my knowledge is Walmart, I understood completely how to take this challenge and how to make it work in Walmart, because I understand from A to Z how Walmart works and how you implement and filter through all of the Walmart stuff that we have to filter through. So that's really the big reason this worked. The other big reason this works is because as captain of the waste network as well, I also have the other side of my job, which is operations. So with operations in Walmart, I have the authority and, as some people say, the checkbook to go do what we need to do in some cases. I have the ability to reach out to the stores and clubs and say, here's the new direction, we want you to implement this by this day, and also have the ability to reach out and say, your numbers are coming in at this, why, and we can go through and reach out and touch them, as we say in Walmart. So those are kind of the reasons why we were successful. I had a question this morning from a couple of people I was speaking to, and I apologize this morning. I was trying to be quiet because my voice, but I'll talk a lot more this afternoon, I promise. But one of the questions this morning was, are you doing it for the environmental purposes, or are you doing it, why? And I will have to tell you, when Lee stood up and said that we would go to zero waste by 2025, I did not realize the day he stood up and said that would then fall to my to-do list. I didn't know that day in the auditorium, or I would have probably had a different reaction. But when he said it, the way it works in our culture is basically when our leadership says, this is our new direction or this is our new goal, we all then figure out how that fits in. And so in my world with operations, I have literally figured out my new operational lens that has a sustainability slant to it, if you will. So now when I'm making decisions of, working with the different buyers of the company, whether we purchase this piece of equipment or whether we put this item into our 99 supply group, those now go through me at a different level when I think about how do they leave my building now, where in the past I may not have thought that. How do we today have an exit strategy for that item that you're going to put into a fixture? Can I then have an exit strategy to remove that fixture from the building, whereas before I may not have thought of it to that degree? So the reason this has been successful is because we've integrated it into our culture. And it literally has to become part of what you do, not because you have to do it. And that's what's made it successful. So the last part I want to cover per Michelle's notes. I'm hitting them all. Michelle, are you impressed? All right. The last part I need to cover for you is, what were the challenges and opportunities that I found? Well, I had a few. One of the things I realized, and if you're new on the journey, some of you may be well on this journey a lot longer than I have been. But one of the things I realized very quickly, not everyone is ready personally or professionally to be sustainable. Let me give you an example. We went into Fort Smith, Arkansas, which I mentioned earlier. It's about an hour down the road south. We also went into Denver, Colorado, and we had a game plan to figure out what was the concept or the feel of our customers, if you will. So we decided for 2 days to give away reusable bags. In Denver, and when I say giveaway, I'm not talking a few hundred, I'm talking literally hundreds of thousands of bags. In Denver, I could not keep them in stock. I was bringing in more truckloads for the 2-day service. In Fort Smith, I gave away none. So what that taught me very early was, as I build this program to go across the United States, I have to be prepared that not only my associates but my customers are not all ready for sustainability at the same level. And what I have to do from a corporate perspective is give them options and give them education and choices to lead them to sustainable decisions. So we work with our partners, our vendor supplier partners, we work with them to ensure that they have the opportunity to take our recycling, put it back into product that then can come back onto the counters that we sell at Walmart and Sam's Club. So those are kind of some of the things we look at. The other thing that you need to be prepared for that I was a little surprised, internal opposition may be greater than external. There's a lot of people, because we've done it this way, this is the way we've always done it, I'll die doing it this way. There's a few of those in Walmart, and so we've really had to educate and help them along the way, understanding, at what level do you need me to have this conversation for you to understand that this is the right thing to do for your department, your division, and for the corporation in general. And fortunately, those battles have been interesting, but I have accomplished most of them. The infrastructure and technology, because we're Walmart, because of the volume, and I was telling some people yesterday that met with me, one of the biggest or interesting things when people sit across from me in my office is they say, I want to do this tomorrow, put us, give us it all. And people don't understand, with the volume of Walmart giving you all, especially if you're talking our waste, you're not prepared for that, okay? So Feeding America, the first time they met with me, said, we want all your stores, everything by Friday. And I said, there's no way. So here we are 3 years later with Feeding America, and we're down to 4 stores and 6 clubs that are not attached to a food bank. So it's taken 3 years down that journey to make sure they're prepared, because our goal with Feeding America was never to be a burden. Our goal with Feeding America was to donate food of the quality that if you were still the customer going to the food bank, it would be the quality that you would pick up as the customer coming into a Walmart or Sam's. So we never wanted our waste to be moved to them. We wanted to do what we felt was right because it was going to the landfill and it was still good product. Our QA standards are so high that we pull product 3 to 7 days prior to, and that is still of the quality that could go to people for consumption. We, of course, let the store and club managers, local level, make that call because they're there visually. We just follow the parameters we have, and then they follow them from visual from there. But with that, you will have internal pushback, so be prepared for that. I tease my team that I'm bulletproof, but my armor gets a little thin. The size of Walmart, we talked about that, and understand that from my office where I sit some days, I know that when I make decisions, I influence change or could literally create an industry. And so I have to be very aware of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and who are all the pieces involved in that decision. So when I put the organics program on paper one day, it didn't exist in the industry in the U.S. So there were bits and pieces, but not to the volume or scale that Walmart needed. And the great thing about what we're trying to do is that program's not there just for Walmart. If other people can join onto that program, all that does is help all of us lower the cost and do the right thing sustainably. So our goal is, we've been very open with conversations, and a lot of people in here I've had the opportunity to meet with individually, and some of you now I've got a face and a name connected, which I appreciate immensely. So Michelle, I think I've hit all your points. And my voice is holding, so if I'm good on time, Odin, I think, do I take some questions, or are we good with time?
Yeah, we're great with time, and there are some, I just wanted to point out that there are some mics for questions that we can use. Michelle Halsell, thank you very much. You've become the default mic runner, but doing an excellent job. And I want to encourage questions. And Vonda, thank you so much for sharing your really incredible experience and for your leadership on this issue. It's really fantastic. And I'd also like to encourage people, in addition to questions, to really any feedback or themes that you hear in Walmart's experience and in Vonda's experience that echo what it is that you're wrestling with as well. So let's see if there are any questions. There's somebody right up here.
Vonda, what is Walmart's current waste diversion rate, and what is the biggest item that does end up in a landfill? It does end up in a landfill? Yes.
We're not publicly stating our current diversion rate. I will tell you that, are you motioning for me to do something? Oh, okay. She's motioning for the mic. I was like, she's needing something. I don't know what. But I will tell you that we are a lot further down this journey than most people know. As of January 31st, I will be able to know by store and club specific the exact amount of diversion from the from the waste that they have. So I foresee after January, we'll speak more to those numbers. What is our biggest item still going to the landfill? Our goal is through all of the programs we have in place, OCC, which is our cardboard, these recyclables, about 34 of them today, plastics, aluminums, et cetera, books, patterns, all that goes elsewhere. The other program we instituted was disposition. Disposition, if you're a customer, come back into our building with a coffee pot, a microwave, whatever, for whatever reason, you didn't like it, you know, it's 10 years old and it's died on you, whatever. It comes back into the building. Before, we had to throw that away, and today we can actually palletize all that and send it back through our return centers and either salvage, liquidate, et cetera. So that has repurposed, reused again. So a lot of our waste in our compactors was still that. So we accomplished that about mid-year of last year. And the great thing is, as we found solutions, we've been able to roll them out through the U.S. So we didn't hold. So when we figured out how to fix apparel or the buckets, we didn't wait till we figured out all the other problems. We went ahead and rolled that out to all the stores and clubs. So probably the largest thing today that's still going into the landfill is the odds and end pieces like parking lot trash, bathroom trash, glass, because we generate glass at Walmart's, certain containers, pickles, things like that. But we don't generate it enough in one location to make it cost effective yet to find the solution. There are solutions for glass, but not spread out across the U.S. like I need or contained like I need to get it all in one place. And then we have contamination. So things that I will not allow associates to sort through is what we're down to basically, and that's what you're still going to find in our compactors. We also have some food that would be extremely labor intensive to empty. So like if it's a 6-pack of yogurt, I can't pay an associate to stand there and rake all that out. That's too time intensive. So that's still going in the landfill today. So those are the kind of things we're down to literally that I'm trying to find solutions. And every time I see Michelle, I'm like, glass, I need an answer for glass. And she doesn't have one as of yesterday for me. So any other questions?
Yes. Hi there. Thank you
Sorry,
very
good
much for
morning.
being here. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was awesome. I'm in the world of reverse logistics and solutions in that matter. And one of the things that I can't crack the nut on is helping make items financially feasible to go through the return system and be reworked. Now, you mentioned that you had an initiative for vendors to be able to pull back their product that's been returned, rework it, and then bring it back into Walmart. I didn't know that Walmart would do or take manufactured products, but I'd like to hear more about that program.
Two things, and I think you're going down a road I'm not on. So disposition items are items that we currently sell today in the store that would come back broken, damaged, et cetera. And that goes back through our logistics chain, which is our return centers. The other piece of that is in certain areas, like for Feeding America, for example, there are, and I'm not a logistics expert, so I'll probably use the wrong word here, so if I have any Walmart logistics people, do not email me later. But reverse logistics in Walmart, there are some empty trailers going back, but few. But what they try to do, especially in places where, like let's say, and I don't think I heard anybody from Tyson here this morning, which kind of surprised me. If I missed you, I apologize. But let's say Tyson has a truckload of chickens, and they, you know, for whatever reason need to donate that, but for, you know, that's probably not my best example, but they need help getting it there or whatever to a food bank. And so in some cases, Walmart Logistics has been able to step in if we have empty miles and help us out with things like that. But we by no means are taking back you know, odds and ends, definitely not waste from other or outside of Walmart. We're definitely doing that through our return center logistics, not our trucks that bring our freight and merchandise to the stores yet. We've not figured that out. Now, I am asking them in the 4 food banks or 4 stores that don't have food banks, I am asking them to see if we can use some of those backhaul miles because we're up in the Dakotas. There's not a lot going on as far as our stores, and so trying to get those to a food bank that could still use it because today in those 4 stores it's still going to the landfill. So I'm not sure if I answered your question. Okay, so why don't you grab me afterwards and let me get a little bit more detail so I can make sure you're taken care of on that, okay? Anything else before I have a gentleman over here.
There's a couple more, and so we have time for a couple more questions. And I want to invite people, you're welcome to stay standing if you want to stand. There are a couple seats over here and in the back. We'll arrange for more chairs as well. We're at an overcapacity crowd, which is great, but if you want to sit, not so great. And if Greg and after the next question, if Greg Van Buskirk and Zach Fries and Michelle Harvey and is Leah Jepson here? Great. If you guys could make your way up and get situated with mics, we can ease that transition as well. So next question for
There's a spot here too.
Oh, great. The spot right up here. Front and center.
I really liked your comment about internal opposition sometimes being greater than external opposition, and I think that's probably systemic through any organization. It's even everyone here is probably experiencing that. I'm just curious if you could expand upon. You said you've kind of corrected that problem, or at least have overcome it. But I'd be curious to know two things. One, where was the most opposition? Was it lower in the organization, mid-level, high level? And how did you go about, overcoming that opposition? What things did you do?
It was medium level. Not high, it was medium. And I basically just had to go and say, and when I say, we're a company of several million people, so I may have had 4, but they were really loud 4 people. But what I did is I basically just went and sat individually with each one and said, okay, what is it you're going to need? What is it you're not seeing or that you don't understand in the big picture of what we're trying to accomplish that seems to not make you feel comfortable? And so I literally went in, and in some places I had to take it down to the P&L level to get some people to understand that. I really had to say, yes, this is a cost to do business, but here's what we're offsetting if you look at the big picture. And so one person, I had to literally walk them through that level, and that was very successful. I accomplished that 2 weeks ago. So it's been a 2-year trial, but we're to the point where that person signed off and said, I got it. Okay, thank you. The others were basically, I stepped in their world. So when I took over as the waste captain, I stepped in their world, and so by stepping in their world, all of a sudden it was like, well, if it could have been figured out, I would have already figured it out. Yes, but I now bring the operations piece to it, that I can go into the stores and do things a little differently, and so it's more of trying to help people understand that it's for the good purpose. And just getting that uncomfortableness that someone from outside your department may actually help lead you to a more sustainable decision. So we've been good so far. Yes, sir. Or
Vonda, thanks. Your presentation was fantastic. I have one question. You were talking about cost effectiveness. Is there a return on investment or some hurdle rate that you use to make a decision on whether to pursue a particular solution?
yeah, my evaluation. No. My SVP reminded me the other day, that's coming. We look at a lot of different things, and in some of the meetings I had yesterday, a couple of those people are here, so I'm going to be a little redundant again. Good morning, Zach. We look at, of course, we're Walmart, so Walmart has always looked at cost. I mean, that's a given. We're going to always look at cost. I also look at cost to do business, and one of the conversations I've had to have quite a bit is, this is cost to do business, and what is that versus revenue or savings? And there's a big difference in those conversations. And so what I try to do is I take everything under my landfill waste program, OCC, SSB, organics, disposition programs, Feeding America even. There's a small cost associated with doing that. So I make sure, 1, that we're honest about the cost. 2, that we state that there's a cost to do business, getting your OCC, your SSB, your recyclables out of your building. That's a cost. Now, from that cost, how can I turn that into a revenue stream? Understanding, and for those of you in retail, the biggest challenge I had was trying to explain to leadership the difference in creating a budget off commodity market. That was fun. But we've gotten past that hurdle because that was new to us in Walmart. We didn't really think about the commodity market on aluminum and, a couple of months ago when it all crashed. So that all changed some things. And we like to, in Walmart, to put numbers down to, you will turn in this number and then you're held accountable to that. So with this waste stream being a commodity market driven in some areas, we have to be very careful not to lock ourselves in, but to also plan our business. And so it's been several levels of that, basically talking about and understanding cost to do business, revenue potential. And I had a conversation this week on one project that I said, you have 18 months to make this a revenue, period. We got to come up with a way to make this a revenue in 18 months. And the president and CEO of the company said, got it. So the other businesses, we have to understand that, we have to offset. My goal is, when I make decisions, is is it cost neutral to Walmart, or is it cost savings? And that's really where I have to come in. Is it cost neutral or is it cost savings? Because somewhere, if there's a cost of 50, 60, 70 million dollars, where do I offset that cost in another category? Okay? We good on time or are we done? Oh,
No, we're good on
okay.
time. So,
Here, allow me.
do you have a question, sir, as well?
I just have a follow-on right from that. Can I jump in? Well, I'm just wondering, you know, because we always talk about creating business value, and all of the, you know, bottom line things are the most important drivers, of course. Do you calculate in any of the kind of top line benefits? Does that ever come into considerations? How do you even think about that?
Are you going to call that the fluff? No.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of
Yeah.
is, but,
I got
you
told
know,
that yesterday.
But it's been that fluff has been very important.
Yes,
for
absolutely.
Walmart's, you know,
Absolutely.
image.
So we look at what's the PR ramifications, what's the goodwill ramifications. I have a project right now that is not productive. I'm losing money, but it's the right thing to do. So how long can I continue to do the right thing, knowing that I'm losing money? And how do I help my supplier that's not in the great place right now because they're not making money? How do I help offset that for them to continue to do the right thing, but help that supplier? So those are the kind of things that sometimes I have to have the hard decisions and hard conversations, you know, and just be honest with people. Today, this isn't working. Can we make it work, or do we have to come to a place that we have to make the decision to walk away from this program? So those are included, but it's a combination, and that kind of goes back to what I said a while ago about the filters changed for me, where now when I'm making decisions for Walmart US, I have to look at what's the sustainability piece of that as well, versus just looking at, yes, purchase this, yes, spend this, yes, do this. So hope that answers that question.
Just curious you said you're on the sustainability side. How closely do you work with the energy side in terms of issues like energy waste, energy creation, those kind of?
I meet with them every other week. Yep, they have a set meeting on my calendar. We talk through where we're heading organically, what's our options organically, what can we do there. And then I sit on the Buildings Sustainability SVN, and then those people have open access, of course, to me at all times. So very, very engaged. Was at the solar announcement and all that as well.